Julius Caesar prepared for the parley a feast, and he served every kind of meat and great vats of Italian wine, and as Caswallon sat beside Julius Caesar, there on the other side of Caesar sat the most beautiful woman in the world, and Caswallon could see that Caesar loved her, but he could also see that she didn't love Caesar, but loved him, Caswallon. Her name was Flower. Caesar said that he would take his legions and leave the island of the mighty if Caswallon would agree to two minor concessions, which were these. The first was that Caswallon would not mistreat those tribes that had helped the Romans, and the second was that the sons of the island of the mighty, of his and of every tribe on the island, including most specifically his sons and the sons of other chiefs, would come to Rome for 4 years of their early youth to learn how to be Roman soldiers and fight as the Roman troops had fought. Caswallon looked about him at the soldiers who had so amazed him for their discipline, their unity, and their loyalty, and as he looked at them, his eyes caressed past the eyes of Flower, which were shining at him, and he thought there would be nothing nicer than that his sons by her be raised to be stalwart like that, like the Roman army which went through the island of the mighty, like a tide, and never broke or ran away once, no matter how much blood was shed. Caswallon smiled at Flower, and said he would do as Julius Caesar said, though everyone knew he wouldn't be any more kind to his neighboring tribes than he had ever been. It was at that moment that Bendigeid Vran received the poisoned dart in his foot, just as he had totally destroyed all the people of Ire, except 5 pregnant women in a cave. And that night, as Bendigeid Vran was foretelling the future to his men, Caswallon managed to get a private interview with Flower, and though they couldn't speak each other's language, they understood each other very well. And the next day, Julius Caesar sailed away and took Flower with him, and also every soldier of his troops left alive. And Bendigeid Vran breathed his last, and his men cut off his head, and placed it in a vat of cedar oil mixed with herbs, and thus began the 87 years. Then Caswallon called together all the Caswalloni and all the neighboring tribes, friend and foe alike, to a great feast that went on month after month. And there was every meat available, and wheaten loaves baked in honey. There was milk and cheese, and roots and greens, and there were cask after cask of mead and ale, and servants ready to serve everyone with the richest fare at any time, for many months. And this was called one of the 3 extravagant feasts. And at this feast, Caswallon made sure of his power in the land, and also he gathered 3 hosts of boys, 63,000 boys, and decked them all with silver torques, so that they were called the Silver Host. And when the feast ended, he took those 63,000 boys across the water to Julius Caesar to be trained as Roman soldiers. And then he went in search of Flower, and he found her after a long wandering, and all that time he never looked at another woman, for which he was called one of the 3 faithful lovers of the island of the mighty. But when he did find her, she was so well guarded that he had to disguise himself as a shoemaker before he could speak with her, for which he was called one of the 3 gold shoemakers. By that time, he had learned the Latin language, and how to make coins and helmets and other useful things, and he took Flower and went back to the island of the mighty. And because of the training of the boys and of the things Caswallon had learned, began the great Roman age of Britain. And by the time the head of Bendigeid Vran was buried, Rome had all but conquered the island of the mighty, except for a small but fierce and fiery band of heroes, led by Caswallon's own great-grandson, the mythical and much-loved Caradoc. But of Caradoc I will tell another time.